One of them days. One of them days, sir.
One of them days.
Let's go. Let's go.
They give it to Jacobs. Foul on the block. Has to step.
Up the energy. One more notch. Let's go, man.
4th and 8 from the Minnesota 48. They threw it short to Hawkinson, and the Giants rally to the ball, and Xavier McKenna makes the play of the ball game.
Brian Gutekunst made some major moves today in the first day of the legal tampering period for free agency that are monumentally going to change the way the Packers look in 2024 and for years to come. But they came with two corresponding moves that aren't so popular with a lot of Packer fans. So we'll start with those right here. So first news of the day was David Bakhtiari being cut. Not a terrible surprise to most people, kind of something we saw coming. His injury history has really just finally caught up to him with the point where the Packers have paid him a lot of money over the last several years for very little production. So saving around $20 million on the cap that was able to free up some money for them to make these corresponding moves. The first of which was signing former Raiders running back Josh Jacobs. 2 years ago, led the league in rushing, was the rushing champion, a little bit bigger bodied back, but, in reality, an outstanding, still young 26-year-old running back that is going to be a bell cow for the Packers moving forward. And immediately after that, we got the news that the Packers were releasing Aaron Jones, which is a much sadder, more somber note. I mean, there's a jubilation for a little while of how outstanding this backfield was going to be, the two of them together. But unfortunately, that was short-lived. And, it's not surprising. Later in the day, we did find out that reports were that the Packers were asking Aaron Jones to take up to or exceeding a 50% pay cut from his $12 million salary for 2024, which is a pretty big haircut for a guy like Aaron Jones, especially when you could see the difference he made on this team last year when he was healthy versus when, they were relying on AJ Dillon. So really sad to lose what was really the heart and soul of this Packers team in Aaron Jones. And then on top of that, David Bakhtiari, who has been a stalwart in this Packers locker room and really in the Wisconsin community over the last decade. So, farewell to both of them. I truly hope that David Bakhtiari's knee is doing better and that he is able to, potentially reunite with Aaron Rodgers, which is what everybody's going to joke about, but is in reality what Rodgers is going to be advocating for. But wherever he ends up playing, I hope he's healthy and he is able to continue his career because he's really should be a Hall of Famer in my mind. And Aaron Jones, the latest news is that Minnesota is interested, and let's hope he doesn't go that route. But the NFC North loves to poach players from other NFC North teams, and they could definitely use a running back in Minnesota. It would just be heartbreaking to have to face him twice a year. So as we look a little bit closer at some of these deals, one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting about the Josh Jacobs deal was Ross Uglum actually tweeted about it. But, you take that swap and you can kind of look at it from the lens of who can pair with the running back that you have better through this draft. So he points out that there's really some more options that are smaller guys that'll pair nicer with a little bit larger Jacobs than there are big guys who would pair with Aaron Jones had we kept him in this case. So he goes off to list a couple guys like Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd, Will Shipley, Dylan Lobe, and Tyrone Tracy. And really the alternative, had we kept Jones, would have been a guy like, Audric Estime, who was a bigger guy, productive. Some reporting that the Packers were interested in, apparently met with him at the combine, but then went out there and ran extremely slow, like slow to the point where he's probably not, on our board anymore as a running back there. Not that that's a huge determining factor for the Packers on whether or not they would have gone with a guy like that, but it is just part of the, array of things that took place that led them to this decision. So Jones, like I said, 26 years old. Essentially, we're getting 4 years, 3.5 years younger at the running back position in this transaction by bringing on Jacobs. And, that's ultimately going to serve them well for, more longevity in that backfield to pair along with Jordan Love and the weapons that we have on offense. And when you look at the money behind it all, they are paying out for a premier running back that they've got. He's a top 3 running back potentially in the NFL. And, we're paying him like that. So, 4 years, 48 million, that's 12 million a year, which is what we kind of previously had with Jones. But the difference is that, that youth that we're bringing on, and just a little bit more physical play style, potentially a little bit more reliable. Whereas Jones has had his number of injuries over the years, missed a lot of time this past season even. And, to go forward with a younger, still very explosive, but bigger back is definitely something that's interesting for the Packers. And then the other big signing after all of this took place was we finally landed Xavier McKinney. And he was most people's number one safety that they were targeting in this free agent group, after Antoine Winfield was tagged. So Packers go out and are able to make a big move to really shore up that secondary. And I think this defense is going to benefit greatly from this signing. And if you thought the money we were paying for Josh Jacobs was a bit exorbitant, take a look at this number that, we've got reporting on for the Xavier McKinney deal, which is 17 million per year for a total of 4 years, $68 million. From some other reporting that we were able to hear about was that in 2024, his base salary is going to be $25 million. So they're really front loading a lot of that money, which Green Bay likes to put some more money early on to these free agent deals. So that way they can move on from a guy in those later years of a contract if it turns out that, they essentially are overpaying for a player at that point. So pay them up front when they're more likely to produce, when they're a little bit younger, and then reap the rewards of, a more cap beneficial number later on, or if they decide to, extend them beyond that point. But really, these signings are going to make a huge impact on this Packers roster moving forward. And I still think that we're in the market still potentially for a linebacker out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see, second wave of free agency potentially where we're getting a little bit more involved and seeing what that linebacker market kind of bears out to be. And, from there, we'll really see where our draft priorities need to lie. As it stands right now, I'm assuming that we're probably looking offensive line or maybe still safety at the end of that first round pick, depending on who falls there. If, a Cooper DeJean is there and he's that dynamic kind of slot potential safety, just chess piece in the back end, maybe that's the way we go. Or if we just add some depth at the offensive line positions, or potentially an upgrade to a Josh Myers or Sean Ryan, because we did see that along with these transactions that were happening around the rest of the league, John Runyon Jr. is reported to be signing with the Giants. So there's a hole on our offensive line that from our starters last year that, everybody just assumes Sean Ryan's going to plug into, and rightfully so, probably will to some degree, unless we make, a big investment in the draft at that position. But also Darnell Savage reportedly signing with the Jaguars and making pretty good money for himself there as well. I believe it was north of 12 million per year, which is definitely more than the Packers were going to pay him. So, good for him. Wish both of them well in their careers moving forward. And, just check back here. I still am going to put out that primer video and kind of recap some of the action that the rest of the NFC North has taken so far in free agency. And check back for that video later. And as always, go Pack, go.